All right, everyone. Today we're going to talk about Hydra, and Hydra is one of the newest clan bosses, as we all know, but probably one of the more difficult and challenging ones to try and figure out. It's a mode that people are getting frustrated with, are giving up on, are not really caring for anymore. Uh, but it does take about really the first week of a cycle takes you to figure out what the good best team setup is, and then after that, week 2 and 3 and 4, you basically just recycle. So a tip that I have, and I already did this team this morning, and thought that it was relatively successful. It's actually one of my stronger team setups. And surprisingly, it does probably the least amount of damage. So, um, power and strength and your best champs isn't always the best thing. Sometimes it's just good RNG. When you kill a head and the head comes back, it's the same head. Then you kind of recycle and do it all over again. If it's a different head, well, mid fight, you got to change strategy. And that's what actually happened here. On reset, after killing a head, I got two different heads. Um, and Unfortunately, I was only able to get 8.9 mil. Otherwise, if I got the same heads again, I probably could um, get away with probably almost double that damage. So I was doing good. I was surviving well until the Ally Protector came out, and until um, the Cleanser came out, and then it was pretty much game over. So that is my first team. I didn't screenshot the damage. I should have, but obviously Drex did quite a bit of damage with the burns. So definitely, if you can pull Drex, he's a great option. So Martyr was my lead for that added defense aura, 33% defense aura, which is always great um, for the team. So I didn't actually put um, Duchess in the lead because I didn't necessarily care for the added speed, 19% speed. I would much rather have Martyr in there for the decreased defense. Now she also puts out counterattack, which is quite good. You just got to time it so that when your buffs get stolen and then spread, that's when you're going to want to use that counterattack. So it comes down to timing. Duchess, of course, is in there for the veil, so you don't get feared constantly. Um, and same with the lion. Added veil, added block debuffs, added decreased defense. So when Martyrs falls, his goes up. Ryan is actually in there for block debuffs on the A1 when you counter. That's multiple block debuffs on that A1, which is always awesome. And then, of course, the cleanse with AoE weaken. So um, similar to Ceres, where it's AoE cleanse or AoE clear buffs and then decrease defense. She does AoE clear buffs and decrease weaken. Plus, she also has a second revive. Drex, of course, is in there for the burns. When attacking, puts out burns. When getting attacked, puts out burns. And then Leorius was in there for the AoE damage and the sheer damage. He was putting out 3 to 400,000 once a head was dead on just his A1. When I had multiple heads dead, I was using the AoE attacks. And then, of course, when the head swallows you, uh, these AoE attacks kind of kick in, and then you're able to get that out. So that's actually team one and what happened. And then you just recycle, 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 and keep doing the same thing. Duchess comes in for a revive, Duchess dies, Ryan comes in for the revive on Duchess, Duchess picks up the rest of the team, um, and then the Veil on there as well. So that is the first team. Now, the second team I actually did last night. Was this team right here. So the way it works is Hellier is in there for many different reasons. So we'll put this up. Hellier's passive, whenever an ally has 2 or more debuffs that is attacked, Hellier actually absorbs 30% of that damage. Yeah. So when that Hellier takes quite a bit of damage away from. Sorry, Hellier takes a bit of damage away from the rest of the team. Okay, now his A1 actually stacks so that you can get up to 20% more defense, and he is a defense-based champ. And then once you hit that 20% cap, you start to get healing 75% of the defense. So the more defense you have, 4,000 or 5,000 defense. How much do I have? 3,800. I mean, it's not much by no means, but 20% of the 1,500, you're looking at close to 5,000 defense once you're fully buffed, plus defense buff on top of that. You're looking at 6,000-7,000. It's a nice heal once you get this maximum. Shield wise, on lower difficulties, he actually puts out quite a bit of damage. So he actually gets out a nice juicy shield for the rest of the team. And then of course his A3 is a beautiful cleanse. So it takes all the debuffs. So when they put out all of those poisons on you, you're able to take all of those poisons and throw them right back at. The more resist you can put on Hellier, the better. It converts all his resistance to accuracy once you push it back. Otherwise, he's a resistance, heavy resistance. So I only have 330 on him. He's pretty good for the general contact. Add the extra 90. He's over 400 accuracy when I'm pushing things back at them. I also do have some damage on him. I didn't cheap out on the damage. I could have gone more defense and more resistance, but I did want him to do some kind of damage. So he works for other content. So that's why Hellier is good. Rector's Wrath, of course, for the Veil, the heals, and the revive if needed. You have Doom Priest. Best part of Doom Priest is the passive. Try to get her as fast as you can. I have her with high resist, so she's not taking as many debuffs, but she's able to recycle those skills. Now, Doom Priest can be good in a Relentless set, and then gets turn after turn after turn. She also gets a passive on her turn, gets the heals. So added a little bit of heals here. Geomancer on this team is by far, the superstar. Last night I put out 6.5 mil or so just with him, and that comes down to his burn. Get the burn on the heads, and then the passive when the team takes damage. He's putting out damage to that head that has the HP burn that he places. So, and then of course the HP burn does damage on top of that. So always good. I did try some different compositions. I put a Renegade in there for more burns out there. I tried a Painkeeper as well. Both good options if you can build them very tanky. They're both squishy, so it didn't really work for me. I found that this team worked actually the best. Again, based on RNG, you need to get a little bit lucky. Ugo I just recently built. So my Ugo is high HP, decent defense, and accuracy, mainly because of the AoE block buffs and the AoE decreased defense. So when they're stealing buffs from you, they ain't landing. Even if they do, they spread the debuffs, and it doesn't go anywhere. Also, there's a cleanse here to remove one debuff as well. So when you have multiple debuffs, this comes in handy with Doom Priest. And then a heal, and I mean, it's rare that Ugo's going to be the last one alive, but if he is, or she, whatever. And then Shalad, this is actually my second one, so not as tanky as my first. So still decent attack, half decent HP, not the best. Some decent damage and needs some accuracy, but not fully booked. But again, you get the leech on everybody, so when you're getting the AoE attacks, you're actually getting some HP back on the leech, especially with Geomancer, on that A1 recycle. And then, of course, stealing. You got to be really careful with this. As you can see, I don't have it fully booked. I use it sparingly because you don't want them to steal 2 continuous heals for 3 turns, especially on a team like this where I don't have a buff cleanser on this team. So I can't remove their buffs. All I can do is prevent them from stealing them and prevent them from spreading. So something to keep in mind. So I do use this sparingly. If for whatever reason they're stealing some good buffs, or like a block debuffs, for example. Um, I might try to steal that if I can get away with it and if there's enough blocks on the rest of the team. So it is based on how well we can do with this team. The third team I found that worked actually quite well was this team. So a heavy resist, so I have the added 80 resist, plus my Sifi is built fast with lots of resist. Um, okay defense. She does, with her skill, put out an increased defense buff, as well as a block and an increased speed. And then, of course, a revive on one champ, which gives quite a bit of turn meter when they do revive. And then this passive that removes fear and freeze. Fear is the most part that we would want, but also removes everything from Rotos. So I do have Rotos part of the team. And then, of course, this is my stronger salad, fully booked. But again, stat-wise, half decent, very low defense. But heavy attack and accuracy, so could bump them up, but that's where I have him right now. He will be the first one to die, but he's also the first one to take the eat, so if he's dropped, it's not that worry. I did put Draco in there mainly for the decreased defense and weaken, and then the added as we start to get debuffs on them, poisons and added damage on debuffs. Inquisitor, of course, is a superstar here, constantly cleanses fear, so I don't need to worry about any veil on this team. Constantly will cleanse fear, so Sifi doesn't really need her passive to cleanse fear. She's more there to cleanse everything else on Rotos. And then Lady Kimmy is pretty amazing on this team. So she increases turn meter whenever debuffs are placed. Right, so constantly we're getting a debuff placed and then we're removing them, right? She also puts this block buffs up if we're able to remove buffs. So, if the head steals a buff or two, we'll try to cleanse it, let them spread it, and then we'll try to remove them all, put a block debuffs, and then we get an increased accuracy and speed. On top of that, we put decreased accuracy and decreased speed on the heads, slows them down a bit, lowers their accuracy, so less likely for them. Plus we have the added resist from Sifi. And then, of course, this is a multi-hit A1. I don't have it booked because for Doom Tower bosses, it doesn't really work. For general content, I don't use her for the A1 drop. And I don't really use her for Arena. I mainly use her for Hydra and for Doom Tower. So there you have it. For Doom Tower, she does have an awesome aura, 30% speed. That's the only place I'll use her. Get her a couple extra buffs so Seer can strip them and do work. So those are the three teams that I have actually found this time around to work. What we have here is the Head of Blight, which puts up that poison cloud. So you really want a block buffs up right away before this poison cloud gets put up. This poison cloud makes everything a weak hit. That's what it does. So any time you're doing damage, and this is why, if you notice, I don't have a Lydia part of the team. I put in Draco instead. So Draco will do the damage. Draco will take the eat, which allow the rest of the team to survive. But also Draco places a buff versus having to do damage to place the debuffs, where Lydia needs to do the damage. So if she gets a weak hit, she's not putting decreased defense and weaken out. This head is weak to poison, so that's you don't really want to bring heavy poisoners on the team. But this head actually does more damage on a burn, so getting burn on here is actually a good thing. The Head of Torment, of course, is the one that puts the fear on. So that's something that you need to be mindful of. Either have Inquisitor on the team or Veil. Head of Mischief is the pain in the butt one. This is the one that steals your buffs, spreads them to the rest of the team, and you can't hit them unless you have Hex on the team. Okay, so as you notice, I don't bring Hex on the team. I do a lot of AoE damage instead, and that's what gets the damage down, or at least spits out my champ when they get eaten. And then this one, the Head of Wrath, does crazy amount of damage provokes on the team, so you do want that block debuffs on the team, but does do heavy amount of damage, increase attack on itself, and will destroy you. So you do need that. Also, a second champ that resists poison. And then of course the other two heads, cleansing head, and then of course head of suffering that puts this pain link on, and the ally protect that you definitely want a buff cleanser on the team if that head does spawn. So there you have it. That's a breakdown of kind of some of the ideas of what you would want on the team. There are some superstars here. There are, some heavy champs. I mean, this is a heavy legendary champ based team, but this one isn't. You don't need a Helior on the team. Any kind of buff cleanser would work. A Raiho would work here. A second Doom Priest would work here. Anyone that really cleanses, even if you wanted to bring in a Harris, right? Harris will buff one random or remove one random debuff from all the teams. Not great, but it works. A Demitha works as well. Increase buffs, decrease one turn of a debuff. If you only have one left, that's a cleanse in itself. Has a block damage up buff as well, and then heal as well. So Demitha is a great option as well. I just had 4 salads, so that's why I built a second one, mainly for Hydra, and that's why he's semi-booked. So this is the weaker team of the 2 of my teams. However, it actually does the most amount of damage. So I'm just going to do a quick run here just to show you how a team like this would work. So this is probably one of the more achievable teams. Now it does take some setup. As you can see, I have no buffs to start, so I want them to steal something. Okay, and then so I'm going to put the Veil up second, and then I'm going to try to get this AoE decreased defense in this block up on everybody, which it landed perfect. Now I've found, and I tried different setups, that the best head, theoretically you would want this head to die right away. But every time this head takes damage from the burn, the counter of this goes up and up and up and ends up destroying you. So I've found that I want this head to die first. Okay, make sure the head gets up. Now, as you can see, I have the block buffs on everybody, so that Poison Cloud did not go on anybody, and therefore I have full damage now. As you can see, Helior is going to use the shield, puts out a decent amount of shield for the damage he puts out, and that's why I built him with damage. I'm going to get the AoE leech out so that the A1 can do massive damage. And then as you see, this head starts to take damage. Nuke, 50k, 50k. Get that out. This head's going to die relatively quickly. So buffs got stolen, except they did not land. One thing to keep in mind is because he's not taking buffs, he's not spreading buffs. So you just got to keep an eye on that. Everyone is veiled, so I could really take out this team. I don't need to cleanse at this point. Extend the leech. Helior, we're going to get some A1s in there just to get his defense up. So this is where all the poisons now landed. Again, buff stolen didn't work. So this is where Helior is going to come in and push the poisons back out. So I could still do this. You get the AoE damage out. And Geomancer's in a toxic set. So I actually put Geomancer in a toxic set for added poisons. They only really land on these middle 2 heads because the other 2 are resistant to poison. I'm not going to cleanse because I know he's going to get up there. But what I will do is just hit this head. I know I'm going to get feared, but I know Helior is coming up. So he's going to get rid of all of these poisons, take one for the team, and take a fear. So now that head has super poison based, so we'll take a ton of damage. Okay, we're going to get the block up. So as you see, let's try to get this back up. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So he's actually full on debuffs. So didn't take the block buffs, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because I'm not too worried about this team. Get the shield back up. So as you see, now this head did the nuke. Geomancer isn't doing much right now. A relentless set on Geomancer would work well. Faster speed on Geomancer would work even better. Let's get a heal up here. And then what I'm going to do at this point is I could go on this head again, which will basically kill the head. But this head's going to take a turn. If I place my burn on this head, it's going to be ticked right away. So I want... This head is actually weak affinity. So I might actually fail a burn and then lose a turn, and therefore kind of the run scrapped. So I'm going to go here for to make sure this head dies, basically. Now I did get eaten. What we're going to do is, hopefully the AoEs come back. This team is by far not strong enough to get this head out. I just need to get lucky. And that head is also poison resistant. Forgot about that. Get the block up. So I missed the block on that one, which is bad. But low accuracy. We still got three turns to hopefully clear. And of course, Geomancer's still doing damage. That head has died because of Geomancer's reflect. Doom Priest is still getting that out. Let's get the shield out to get some damage. Because I wasn't hitting that head, it came back. So I lost out on some damage because I'm just trying to get a champion back. This is where a second AoE damage dealer would come in handy, or a hexer, just to try, if you get that AoE hex on the team, then everyone can attack them and then go from there. So what I'm going to do now is try to get this head dead. Big damage comes out. Now that poison cloud has come out because I didn't have block up, so now I'm going to start doing weak damage on all of these champions. This does damage, so we'll get some damage out. And I did not get my champion back. So because I just lost one, this run is pretty much done. I'm going to end the run now. But you get the idea of how to do it. So it does come down to RNG. If you can get some extra turns in there, if a different head eats your champion, it's very easy to get them back, especially with Geomancer, put the burn up, and then it's very easy to get them back. A couple hits from the heads, and out goes your champion. So there you have it. That's this team, of course. I'm going to just quickly show you my second team and how it works. Okay, so he will be stealing the buffs. So I'm going to actually skip this turn for now. I already messed up. So I'm going to get the decreased speed and decreased accuracy. Of course, the fears are going to go out. He just attempted, but I didn't have any buffs. So we're going to constantly want to hit this head because of the fear, and we're going to constantly want to do that damage on them. So now we got the debuffs up. Let them steal first before I go in. Okay. Now finally, Rotos gets a turn. So Rotos does some pretty darn good damage here. what I would recommend is start to stack his HP and start to steal as much HP as you can. Finally, we'll get a decreased defense and weaken. So he is, Draco is a part of my clan boss team, my Mythic Hair clan boss team, so he's tuned at 157. So he is not putting out very much damage. Or sorry, he's putting out a ton of damage, he's just very slow. So unfortunately, that's why he goes last. I would love to have him a little bit faster, but I don't want to mess up the team. The point of this team is to take it slow, to take this constant damage. Finally stole some buffs, so I can get so again we know we're going to get some weak hits off of this. We just have to do enough damage. Let's get these up. I'm going to actually wait till they spread my buffs before I use that on Kimmy, because I want the buffs to be spread so that I have that chance to remove them and then put up the block in its place. So we still have this poison cloud out that we can't remove. That's what the yellow means. They're not removable. But we are constantly hitting this so that he gets more damage. Now the only, again, weak hit wouldn't have taken the poison. The only one that actually is not resist to poison is this head at this point. So we'll keep going. So at this point, we're going to try to remove. We got one block out. We got two blocks out, which is great. Get some more HP on Rotos. Of course, his skills stack on HP. And then it's just cycle, 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 and continue doing it. So let's get some fears out. Sorry, some leeches out, which we got. I could remove these. I don't want them to steal my continuous heal, because otherwise they'll spread it, and then all the heads would heal. If I have block buffs on this head, then I would go ahead and steal some buffs and get some heals on him. But with the AoE leech, we get our buffs back. So as you can see, quite a bit of buffs here. They're going to spread that block debuffs. That's a good time for me to steal it. Let's get Draco up right away. Full turn meter. Get going. Hopefully this head spreads. We'll see. This head spreads while the block buffs is up. So other options that you can have, which I didn't bring to this table, is a debuff extender. Thylesia is actually great at that. So we'll extend debuffs, but also hex on top of that, as long as they have decreased defense on them. So that's a great option for a team like this. You also can bring in a Godseeker, which will decrease their buffs by 1 turn, which is another great option for you and your team. Now, the bad thing about this is this set is now dead, and I no longer get those extra turns from those fears. At the end of the day, now it's my time to put in as much damage as I can on this team. I'm still able to get 2 in there, so I will hit this head, because the AoE on that will go to the other ones. And then we keep going from there. Get as much damage as we can get off of this team. Oh, I didn't even realize my champ got eaten. So I'm gonna watch this damage, right? So we're looking at 500,000 damage on that nuke, right? To get on here. This does not have, let's try to still attack it. We can't. So we got unlucky here. I'm going to try, I got 5 turns here. Here's some AoE damage to get that down a bit. We just got the cleansing head up. So this is pretty much where I'm going to, scrap my run. My RNG was quite poor. And then I'm going to go ahead and try again, because this fear head did not come back. And therefore, this team is built for fearing. And if I'm not getting feared, well, then what am I really here for? This, what do they call it? Head of Decay, also cleanses. So if we're going to cleanse a Hex, if we're going to cleanse a Leech in this case, so that Shalad does not do that AoE damage, like just happened, then what are we really doing here? Right? So, you know, in this case, let's see what we can do. Not going to do that yet. Still nothing. Got lucky and spit him out. But I don't have any fears here, right? So you got to think, if that head came back as the same head and started fearing my whole team, my cycle would start all over again. And I would basically rinse and repeat and do the same thing over and over and over again. It does come down to a little bit of RNG. You do want these heads to kind of pop up, and if you can get that, again, this Head of Decay isn't good. It was on the last cycle, but you know, cleansing the whole team and then spreading the whole team doesn't help. Okay, so there you have it. I'm going to end this run here, and eventually I will try again. This is on hard difficulty. At least I thought it was. I think it was. But this team I actually used yesterday, modified it a little bit, but on hard difficulty. This team I think put out 3 or 4 mil. I needed about 6 to get the max chest. I only got 3 or 4 out of it. Pretty good on hard. As you can see, it did about 9 mil, and then I got poor RNG. I said, you know what, it was good enough for the chest here. If I need to, my other 2 teams will easily put in, my Geomancer team put in last turn, I think it was like 14 or 15 million damage. They don't hit as hard, so you can survive a little longer. But on this cycle, you do want burns, you do want block buffs. You do want some kind of cleansing. You do want some fears if you don't have some way to cleanse the fear, and then go from there. So there you have it. There's the teams. That's kind of a breakdown. Hopefully that helps you a little bit in your Hydra teams. I know Hydra isn't cool, but at the end of the day, it's, if you want the rewards here, you got to put in the work. You got to try. Clan Gold, always awesome. Clan XP, great for your clan. This champion, awesome champion, super cool looking as well. The only way to get her is from here. And then this gear is probably some pretty awesome gear. So you do want the gear. You do want to put the effort in, and go from there. There you have it. Hopefully that helps with Hydra and breaks down a little bit more and gets you some ideas. One of the biggest things, if you've skipped to the end here, the biggest thing that I see is you put out your strongest champs and wonder why you're only putting 100k in. You gotta really work and build some of your champions up. Ugo, I just built literally last night and threw him in this team, and he worked wonders. So Ugo, I would definitely all-star. I'm currently working on a second Geomancer because this rotation, this kind of head, Geomancer is actually crazy. I think any head rotation other than cleansing it, Geomancer would work wonders. Even if you put 2 Geomancers in, you throw a burn on one head, you throw a burn on the second head. As the AoE damage gets hit, both heads are dying. You don't really need a refresh or those added turns, even refresh or reflect. So that's actually how I'm going to rebuild my Geomancer. He was part of my clan boss team. I've since removed him for Hydra. I find he's much better purposed in Hydra. Speed him up. I still decided to put Toxic on him. On this rotation, doesn't work as well. So a reflex set with refresh amulets would work so much better. So there you have it. That's kind of a team breakdown. I don't have many teams because I like to know and play with my teams here, so at least I remember week after week which was the team I actually used. And then you go from there. All right, take care. We'll see you all in the next video.